a special place, Mount Panorama. For more than 3 decades, the world's best drivers and teams have tried to master its unique challenge. But only one man can still claim the title of Mountain Master. His name is Brock. To the Bathurst fans, he's the Messiah. For them, Brock worshipping is a religion. It matters not that 10 long years have passed since their hero last drove a V8 to victory lane. At 52 years of age, the man is still fit, focused and fast, leaving the faithful to wonder why he's calling it quits.
Well, I've just got so many other things to do with my life. It's not you see, people think, well, you're stopping life, you know, you're stopping doing anything, but that's not the case. I'm really embarking upon probably the most important part of my life, and I've got so many new challenges and new directions, new things to sort of explore, armed now with the experience I've gained from having had 30 years in motor racing. So, you see, from my perspective, I see things a bit different.
Brock has won more Bathurst Enduros than any other driver, some due to luck, others through arrogant mastery. After 3 decades, Brock, General Motors and Bathurst have become synonymous with success. Yet, ironically, Brock rates his victory at the height of his ugly bust-up with GMH as his greatest Bathurst win.
87 will probably be the most special one because I had an enormous level of adversity being sort of thrust upon me at that time. The car broke, I had all sorts of dramas happening. I had a very good, great band of loyal sort of supporters out there who worked on the cars and helped me get it up there. And to have won that race, despite all the trials and tribulations, was, in retrospect, a rather extraordinary weekend. I'd have to sit back and, after all, go, wow, life's thrown me a few curveballs at times, but that was a ripper.
30 years at the top has failed to dampen Brock's enthusiasm for his craft. The eyes still burn with intensity, the commitment absolute. The challenge of squeezing maximum performance from a touring car remains a fascination.
Touring car, fundamentally, it's a passenger car designed to take a group of people from A to B, call into the supermarket, fill up that boot with goodies, have some kids on board and all sorts of things like that. So you know you're going to be driving a compromise, and you have to be prepared to accept that and drive around those problems. Okay, here's the game. The car isn't that special. It's designed for a totally different purpose. We're going to race this sucker, and we're going to make it do things that fundamentally it doesn't want to do. And if you enjoy that game, I think you're going to get a lot out of it. So it does take a different approach.
Brock has raced against and beaten the best touring car drivers in the world. On the special strip of Bathurst bitumen he likes to call his own, there's been no end of tough opponents. But Brock continues to place one driver on a pedestal.
Through absolutely showing incredible levels of application to the task, Alan Moffat would have to win it. He very fair to race against. He's the sort of fella that you'd rub fenders with, you know, over a long distance race. And you'd know, you could trust him, you know, and you'd sort of maybe get an advantage, maybe not, depending on how it's working out that day. But at the end of it all, if you ended up having some sort of victory on that particular weekend, on Sunday night, you could sit back saying, boy, oh boy, I finally accomplished something in my life.
Peter Brock is an inspiration to many youngsters, none more so than his son James. In a fitting tribute to his famous father, James built an exact replica of the Holden-engined Austin A30 sports sedan that Peter and his father Jeff built on the family farm 3 decades before. Inspiring young people to have a go is one of Peter Brock's burning passions, something he plans to devote a lot more time to in retirement. He says a career in motor racing has taught him an awful lot about life and respect for his chosen sport.
You could say, is it a science or an art? I tend to think it's an art form, and it's something you've got to work at, you've got to really love it, you've got to really want to do it, and you've got to be prepared to go through the school of hard knocks so you'll learn to respect the craft. If it's all too easy for you, it's been handed to you on a platter, I don't think you quite understand what it all means, because you're going to, you know, someone's got to pull the rug from under you sometime in your life, and you've got to know how to cope with that and to get back up again and to be able to perform at your very peak. So for a young kid, I guess I'd have to say to them, look, if you want something hard enough, if you really dream it, it's the thing that absolutely consumes you, that's the thing you must do in your life.
Motorsport is going to miss Peter Brock. His emotional farewells to sell-out crowds across Australia this year, evidence of the enormous contribution he's made. Thanks for the memories, Brocky. It's been a truly remarkable career.
I guess what I'd like to say to you all is that I've been absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of support that I've received. I've been humbled by it. I hadn't for one moment understood that so many people out there took any notice or so much notice of what I've been doing over the years. I mean, I've been having a ball. I've been out there just having a red-hot go, doing what I do, and not considering that it was in fact something that meant a lot to other people. To you people out there, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the incredible support that you've given me. Thank you.
And like the parade of Peter Brock cars, and of course Peter Brock himself will be out on the track in just a moment. John Smales, you've been covering motor racing for many, many years now. I won't say how many. Peter Brock's been a major part of your life, a part of everyone who's followed motorsport for the last, 2 decades?
Yeah, well, 3 actually, Bill.
Yes, that's right.
I first met Peter at Oran Park in 1968 when he was in the Austin A30 Holden. I've known him ever since. Here he is, coming up pit straight. The crowd has just gone absolutely wild. Peter Brock in the back of this Holden Commodore Ute.
26,000 people here on Friday, 40,000 yesterday. Now the record here is around 47. That was back in 87. Now there's a big chance we'll see that beaten today, and of course as soon as the figure comes to hand we'll give it to you. But the response to Brock has been enormous, and of course it's amazing that on top of a year which has been so great for V8 supercar racing, it's been extremely competitive. 3 drivers could have won the Shell Australian Touring Car Championship when they went to Oran Park for the final round. Of course Glenn Seaton came out on top. It was that good a year, and yet on top of all that we've had the Brock factor.
The Brock factor is what people are calling it, in fact. Brock has been the major catalyst for the growth of V8 supercar racing in Australia this year. I see supercar racing in Australia just like NASCAR in the States, and that's the most popular form of motor racing that the world has known. This category here is going to grow to that, and Brock will be an important part of it ongoing. It's the foundation that he's made here that will help it grow.
Barry Sheen, you've had an association with Brock ever since you've arrived in Australia, and you even parked a car for him once at a memorable moment.
Yeah, I even destroyed one of his Sierras, cost him about 200 grand. Still sent me a Christmas card as well.
How do you describe the Brock enigma?
Well, I think it's fantastic for me coming over. I only came over from England 10 years ago, and I knew Peter shortly before coming here. The fantastic thing about Brocky is he's a great example to everybody. You know, he's a really good sportsman. He's a really nice person. He always has chance to speak to people. He always takes time to speak to people. He's really good with the kids. He's good with everybody, and it's a major example to a lot of sportsmen who should remain nameless, that they should take a leaf out of his book, you know, because just because you can drive a car or race a bike, you shouldn't be a legend in your own lunchtime. You should take time for the people, because without the people you ain't nothing.
In fact, one thing, Peter Brock has always been called Peter Perfect, especially here at Mount Panorama, and yet I don't see him necessarily as perfect. The one thing, Barry, I think he lacks is that final ruthless streak that many perfect racing drivers have. I've never seen Brock do anything that was totally ruthless.
Well, yeah, you know, but at the end of the day, I don't think you need to be totally ruthless. I mean, if you've got the skill, the talent, then it'll shine through. And, you know, you can go on and on about Brocky. You know, he's just a great guy. He's done a lot for motorsport in Australia, a mammoth amount. And I don't think he'll be missed, because he'll still be involved with the sport.
We talked about the nerves of all the drivers on this occasion, and, you know, the necessity for the parade lap, of course, overriding a lot of their fears and expectations about the great race ahead of them. But Brock has always said that he would enjoy his day on the mountain above all. Now, no matter what he had to put into this race to win it, with Mark Scaife, of course, this was to be his day, the King of Bathurst.
Yeah, Brocky promised me that if if he won today, he wasn't going to stop at the end of the pits. He said, I promise you that I'm going to go up on the mountain. So we'll see if he breaks his promise.
You know that tonight at 7 o'clock he has an appointment on the top of the mountain with 400 of his fans who've invited him to a barbecue, and he's going up there. Now, would you like to see Peter Brock trying to get up to the top of the mountain tonight?
Well, it's great. It's good. This is the great thing about Brocky. It's good for the sport, but not only Brocky. There's a lot of other guys in the V8 thing. There's the Larry Perkins, the Dick Johnsons, and that is why V8 racing is so popular in Australia, because people can relate to the guys that race the cars. The guys that race the cars are friendly. They're very amiable. That is why it has such a massive following. The Seatons of the world and that is what a lot of other forms of motorsport could learn from.
Well, moments like this, of course, bring out the best in any sport, and they also bring out the best of rivals. And there have been many marvellous comments from the other drivers. But before we talk about that, let's just have a listen to the atmosphere on top of the mountain. Yes, one of the funniest comments I've heard this week, and it's actually in the official program for the Primus 1000 Classic, was when Dick Johnson was asked, what does it mean to you that this is Brock's last Bathurst? And Dick, in typical dry humour, said, well, it means he won't be back next year.
Incidentally, all those cars that are following Brock at the moment are very special vehicles indeed. They're all Brock Commodores. Brock, in fact, at one stage in the 1980s, was Australia's 6th largest automotive manufacturer behind Ford, Holden, Toyota, Mitsubishi, and at that stage Nissan. He was modifying Holdens off the production line and then putting them back into Holden production. 6,000 Brock Commodores were made. They cost $21,000 each back then, Bill, which was about $4,000 more than a standard Commodore. Today, they still cost about $21,000 plus, and I reckon this weekend you should have bought Brock Commodore futures because they'll be worth a lot more after today.
About 40 minutes to the great race, the Primus 1000 Classic. The fans and Peter Brock lapping up every memorable moment here on the mountain. We shall return shortly with lots more for you.